Hello class, my name is Jonathan Musa. I will be continuing the discussion of the Bellabon case for Student Group 2. I hope you enjoy it. I'll be talking about the key facts and a similar case to provide a better understanding of this case. So some of the key facts of the Bellabon case. Bellabon was murdered and dumped in a plastic bag on Deer Island. This is near Boston. She was 2 years old at the time of the murder. The evidence found on the body was sent to a paleontologist of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The lead paleontologist was Andrew Lawrence, and he was assisted by his then intern Shannon Ferguson. The team vacuumed the clothing samples and did a chemical wash of the victim's hair to try to remove the pollen grains from it. It was found that Bond was dusted with traces of privet hedges and cedar of Lebanon, which are not native but are often planted in the suburbs. There was also some soot mixed in, so her surroundings were determined to be urban. They concluded the evidence came from somewhere near Boston. DNA evidence was also collected from her hair and a tooth, but it didn't match anyone in the database. Mitochondrial DNA was then taken from her bones to compare to her possible relatives. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend were eventually discovered, and both were found guilty of the murder of young Bella. The mother, Rachel Bond, was charged with accessory after the fact and pleaded guilty for a plea deal. The boyfriend to the mother, Michael McCarthy, was charged with murder and later convicted with second-degree murder. So there are some similarities in the use of forensic botany evidence between the Bond case and this case from Austria. The PDF I found didn't have a lot of details on a specific case. It was only mentioned in the introduction. I have a reference to it at the end of the presentation. The case takes place in Austria over 50 years ago, and it was the first recorded case where palynology was used to great success to solve a crime. The case was about a man who took a trip down the Danube River and went missing. A man with a motive for killing him was arrested. The defendant's shoes were analyzed, and the mud on them contained modern spruce, willow, and alder pollen, as well as 20-million-year-old fossil hickory pollen grains, which had eroded from exposed sediment of Miocene age. Only one small area, 20 kilometers north of Vienna along the Danube River, had soil developed on the required Miocene rocks and a forest consisting primarily of spruce, willow, and alder. When the defendant was faced with this information, he confessed and told authorities where the body was buried. The palynologist in this case was Wilhelm Klaus of the Department of Paleobotany at the University of Vienna. So, what was the link between these cases and the forensic botanical evidence? In both cases, the evidence collected was key to determining where the key locations were. The plant evidence showed to be very objective and specific. There are many different types of pollen and plant evidence that can be collected due to the vastly different environments that exist on Earth. Urban versus countryside evidence, for example, from these two cases was very different. Only those specific locations had the correct botanical abundance to make sense of the pieces left behind. Because of this specificity, the use of forensic botany can be a very crucial tool to solving a case. Here are my references. I hope you all enjoyed my presentation and learned a little something too. Thanks.